politics has been ambushed by a political surge. At its centre, a man who is the very opposite of everything a modern TV-age political leader is supposed to be.
What the party is doing now is turning the page once and for all on the Blair years.
I'm accused of being a 1980s throwback. I was in this hall in 1984, standing alongside the miners, defending the mining industry and the miners.
He's a purist, and so he's he's always been the same, and I think that's what people like about him.
I think he has spent 32 years on the margins of the Labour Party, on the margins of British politics.
Throughout his years as a Labour MP, he's often been the man standing at the edge of the picture, or behind the better-known left-wing firebrands.
You're right, he is always at the back. It was always Ben or Dennis Skinner and the rest of them, but not Jeremy. Jeremy's always the quiet one. Jeremy's not a noisy sort of fella. He's very quiet, very unassuming. You wouldn't think he's had leadership material, but by God, I hope he has.
The MP for Islington North is ending his campaign in the seat where 30 years ago his allies on the council trialled his political approach.
Back in the left's 1980s heyday, this bust of Lenin sat in Labour-run Islington Council's offices. It's now in the local museum. If Labour elects Jeremy Corbyn this Saturday, he'll be the most left-wing leader in living memory. Some opponents say he'll usher in a period of purges and central control. But one MP who knows him well says he's a much gentler figure, a sitcom revolutionary, more wolfy than Lenin.
Power to the people!
Some around Jeremy Corbyn say he'll have to toughen up to survive and menace his opponents in the party to entrench the shift to the left. But how did he get to this point? A rebel on the brink of becoming leader.
We must do more to involve members of the public in our decision-making.
For many, the story starts with Ed Miliband's new leadership election rules, cobbled together on the defensive and in haste 2 years ago, over a weekend of panicked meetings at his North London home.
There would be a whole new type of participant who could take part in the election of a Labour leader in return for £3 and a click on the internet.
The main thing is it's a new system. It's a one-person, one-vote system, and that's what's made the huge difference.
Jeremy Corbyn's opponents say the rules allowed outsiders to charge into the election process and alter the balance of opinion. Ed Miliband's allies say it wasn't the reforms that were at fault.
People in the mainstream of the Labour Party who are seeking to blame these party reforms or blame Ed Miliband need to actually look in the mirror if they want to know who to blame.
They could have recruited more members themselves.
These reforms are open to everybody to go out and sign people up for the Labour Party. They have to ask themselves why they've spent many of the last months whining about the process rather than recruiting people with the same effectiveness that Jeremy Corbyn has.
Another key milestone moment happened in a small room here on the 3rd of June, just off Westminster Hall. A small room was all that was needed for the meeting of the Socialist Campaign Group of Labour MPs, the most left-wing Labour MPs in the parliamentary party. They decided they wanted to run a candidate in the election race. They weren't sure they'd get 35 MPs to nominate that candidate as the rules required. They weren't even sure which one of them they'd try and put into the race.
We decided we really had to have a candidate. We went round the table. I remember saying, I did it last time, and finally we got to Jeremy.
Finally?
Yeah.
I think it was a persuasion argument to get Jeremy to stand, basically.
Because no one else would?
No, nobody else would. You know, Jeremy, go and have a go. Get on the hustlings and
Your turn. It's your turn.
Your turn, yeah.
You've been here long enough.
Yeah.
And nobody thought it would end up like this.
Nobody. Not even Jeremy. Nobody.
Your running surprised many. Had you been mulling it over for a while?
We had a discussion amongst MPs of the Labour Party who were anti-austerity and decided that it was a good idea to put a candidate up who was prepared to take that position.
In that same spirit, widening the discussion, some Labour MPs critical of Jeremy Corbyn lent him their votes to get him nominated. They've faced a lot of abuse ever since. Your old allies in the centre-right of the party would say, you're one of us. You made a massive mistake. You created the Corbyn leadership.
You could say it's a classic mistake, or you could say what it's done is brought to a point of crisis that how poverty-stricken we were in ideas to counter Jeremy.
In July, Harriet Harman said Labour MPs should abstain on Tory welfare reforms. All the candidates, except Jeremy Corbyn, rode in behind the decision.
I wasn't prepared to lead a rebellion out of the shadow cabinet and plunge our party into civil war.
It allowed Jeremy Corbyn's campaign to paint the other three candidates as much of a muchness and helped to propel him to front runner, the rank outsider, now potentially on the brink of leadership.
I'm hoping Jeremy can stand firm and make it, but he hasn't got the Parliamentary Labour Party on his side.
And he's not run much in his life, has he?
He hasn't, and he hasn't been in the front bench.
He hasn't been
before.
tested like some
He hasn't
people.
been tested, so he's got a job on his hands. We're going to wish him all the best, and we're going to be supporting him. But I tell you what, there's a lot out there, and the Labour Party, Parliamentary Labour Party, will be sticking the knife in his back.
From the background into the spotlight, the token lefty slipped into the race to broaden the debate. May, as far as the Labour electorate is concerned, have won it.